Welcome to the second video in the series, 3 Keys to Cracking the History Code. My name is Terry Johnson and I'll be your host for all 3 videos. Let's jump right in. On Tuesday, I introduced the 3 keys to crafting a complete history program that is enjoyable, understandable, and easy. And I revealed the first one. Let's do a brief recap. Most history curricula fall short in painting a complete history picture, but through no fault of their own. History is a multifaceted subject, and most curricula focus on just one of the facets, the what of history. But history is a story, and a story has several key elements. These are characters that tell who, plot that tells what, setting that shows where, and context that tells when. Your history program should have the what covered. That is what it's designed to do. But what about the other 3 elements? On Tuesday, we discussed the who of history, which is best covered by adding in a couple historical biographies each month to read aloud together. This is both a fun and easy addition to any homeschool day. If you haven't watched the first video yet, you can do that now. This video will be waiting for you when you get back. Today we're talking about the setting, or the where, of history. Let's jump in. Every story needs a setting. Everything just makes more sense if you know where the story is taking place. And yet, this is the most neglected aspect of history. But it is a key piece of the puzzle to make the picture complete. And it used to be the hardest piece to place. Let me share with you a little story about me. I'm a very visual person and I love maps. Don't tell me the directions, draw me a map. And if a book doesn't include a map in the introductory pages, I have a tendency to get lost inside the story. When we began homeschooling 17 years ago, I learned that the majority of kids are at least partially visual when it comes to their learning style. So I wanted to show my kids where historical events were taking place. But modern-day maps with the political boundary divisions just weren't cutting it. How do you know how big Alexander the Great's empire was when you're looking at a globe or a wall map? I needed historically based maps to illustrate the events, but I was struck by the lack of them available to the general public. I would have to take a trip to my city library, over 30 minutes away, find the big fat book of master blackline maps that could not be checked out, and then draw or trace some maps that I could take home and use with my kids. It was an adventure and rather fun in the beginning, but then the adventure wore off. Eventually, it was just a pain in the neck. I knew there had to be a better way. Little did I know then that I would be creating the solution to this problem just a couple short years later. Finally, I had it. The internet was still quite new at the time, but I had searched and searched online for a suitable solution and still couldn't find anything. So I set out to create my own historical blackline maps for my kids to use for school. I literally started with a stack of fine, smooth white paper and a quality ink pen and drew the shapes I was beginning to memorize from all my tracing at the library. For some reason I don't remember, I mentioned my efforts to create historically accurate maps in an online forum one day, and the news somehow reached the desk of Susan Weisbauer. She called me up on the phone and asked if she could include my maps in her brand new book, not yet published, The Story of the World. At that moment, my life changed. I found out that others wanted what I had created for my own little family. Susan was sending traffic over from her website like crazy, and my little homemade maps desperately needed a facelift. What was then Blackline Maps of World History morphed and became MapTrek, Atlas and Outline Maps of World History. And as they say, the rest is history. So that's my story about creating maps for my family. But the important thing to know is How do you use them? And why? Maps are the setting for the story of history. They show where the events took place and where the people lived and moved about. Maps fill in a critical piece of the history puzzle, helping us crack the history code. When a child can see where a historical event happened, they can understand it better. For example, when you can see that Martin Luther tacked his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg in the heart of Germany, you can see why the Protestant Reformation began to move out in ripples from that place. And here's another example. When you can see the dividing line of the Missouri Compromise between the free states to the north and the slave states to the south along the 36 degrees 30 minutes parallel, you can understand better how tensions couldn't help but escalate as new states were being added to the United States. The setting of history, aka maps, helps complete the story. They provide a more complete picture. Generally speaking, when you see it, you get it. Here's how we add historical maps into our school week. We work on maps once a week, usually on Fridays. Depending on how old my students are and how much they are capable of, I will require varying amounts of effort from them. At the least, I would have my very young children just color a map while I read to them from our history text or a biography. As they get older, I ask them to label important places on the map too. As they get older still, I will have them trace or draw the map, then label it. Coloring is optional for my older kids. Not all of them enjoy coloring. 1 map a week is enough, and 2 is plenty. And here's the bonus that comes with working with maps. Your kids will learn their geography while they're studying history. Yes, I know, isn't that awesome? Okay, so let's wrap this up. At Knowledge Quest, maps are our flagship product. That is what got us into business and what keeps us here. We have produced hundreds and hundreds of historical maps that are available in many different formats. The Map Trek series is our printed and digital publications. Map Center Online is our download site where you can download 1 map at a time when you need it. And Map Studio Pro is our web app that lets you design the perfect map for your history or geography lesson. We provide lots of options for lots of varying needs. But don't go out and buy Map Trek or Map Studio or any of our other map products just now. Next week, we will have a special bundle available for our viewers that will provide the very best of all worlds, all at one very low price. So check back in with us next week. But in the meantime, please feel free to download the free Map Trek Sampler Pack at the link below. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to download the biography about Johann Gutenberg under the first video. Then, plan to come back here on October 26th, when we'll get everything organized and put all this information into context as we talk about the when of the history story. Look for my email on October 26th. But first, leave a comment below letting me know what you liked or didn't like about this video and the information that I'm sharing. That way, I can be sure to bring you information that is spot on for your homeschooling needs. Thanks, and I'll see you on Monday.